Hello everybody, my name is Nick Jordan, and today you're going to find out why everything you know about SEO is a lie, and how I've been able to take multiple projects from 0 to over 100,000 visitors a month without backlinks or black magic or technical BS. So, contentdistribution.com is a content creation and organic distribution agency. And in the last year, we've taken 3 projects from 0 to over 100,000 visitors a month. One of those projects is now doing over 10,000 visitors a day. Another one is now doing over 15,000 visitors a day. We have a team of about 25. 20 writers, about 5 editors, a couple people in management. And the type of projects that we work with are backed by Peter Thiel and Andreessen Horowitz and are endorsed by people like Barack Obama and LeBron James. So the reason you guys need to stick around for the next 20 minutes or whatever, and the reason why I'm so pumped is because the fact that everything you know about SEO is, garbage, means that SEO is accessible. SEO is very accessible. You don't need sophisticated backlink infrastructure, genius technical skills, luck. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to wonder. And if you're wondering about me, I'm none of those things. In fact, I don't understand 50% of the things that other SEOs are talking about because, honestly, they're not worth learning about. You don't need to know those things most SEOs talk about. So, while we're here, let's talk about why learning SEO is so hard. Well, the first reason is that the person who's giving you advice doesn't have the outcomes and the achievements that you're looking to drive. People are way too willing to give advice for things that they haven't done. So when people say they know SEO, what they don't mean is that consistent processes to rank content. What they really mean is they read some stuff and watched a couple of YouTube videos. So the second reason is the people that do have the achievements that you want and the outcomes that you want to drive for your company, they make SEO sound way too difficult. Now, Brian Dean is a big deal. If you haven't heard of him, he's up there with he's up there, right? Everybody in SEO knows who he is. And he has a blog post about ranking factors and ranks really well. And it's about the 200 factors that go in and influence where your website ranks. And, I think it's really disingenuous. I know that he didn't include those 200 factors because he, actually cares about those 200 factors. He included it because he knows how the Google algorithm works. And you're going to learn that next. But he didn't do it because they matter. There's only a handful of things that actually matter. And he made it really sound really difficult because, if there's 200 things that you have to learn to be successful in something, that's going to scare a lot of people off. If you have a job and if you get paid to do something else and you have to learn 200 different things to learn something new, well, a lot of people are going to fail. Well, let's go to the next one. Okay, so the third reason learning SEO is hard is because learning requires feedback, and the quicker you can receive feedback, the faster you can learn and ultimately iterate. But the thing about SEO is that, the feedback cycle is quite long. If you're starting a new site, it can be months and months and months and months. Doesn't have to be, but it totally could be. And you know, you have to take a big bet in the beginning and hope it works. And, you know, a lot of the people out here have either tried SEO or they've hired a vendor that failed them, failed to achieve the results that they were looking for. And I'm going to talk about why most campaigns fail here coming up in just a couple slides. And it's you're going to love it. Okay, so before we jump into, you know, how to crush Google and generate hundreds of thousands of visitors a month, like the projects that I showed you at the beginning, I want to talk about how Google works. And to know how Google works, you have to understand their incentive structure. So ultimately, Google is beholden to their shareholders, and they need to increase AdWords revenue quarter over quarter. It also funds the rest of everything else that they do. I think over 90% is from AdWords. So what do they need to do to increase AdWords revenue quarter over quarter? Well, at a bare minimum, they need to maintain the existing market share. At a bare minimum, you know, if they lose 1 point, I think AdWords is worth, you know, something like $130 billion a year in revenue. You know, if they lose 1 point, 1% market share to someone else, DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever, you know, that's over $1 billion in high margin revenue. And not only is it over $1 billion in high margin revenue, but it also, you know, is kind of scary. You know, if there's, you know, could it lead to a further slip? It's not a good look to decrease in market share. And at a bare minimum, you know, they need to continue to be the best search engine. They need to be known as the best search engine. They have to put their users first. And the best search engine shows the users the highest quality, most relevant results for any given keyword, right? No matter what they type, it connects them with the best available content on the internet. That's what the best search engine does. It does it better than the next person. It's more relevant and it's higher quality. So that's how Google works. And this is, you know, combined across my projects. I have something like, you know, content distribution has something like 65,000 page one keywords. And in general, we're typically the lowest DR. We have the least amount of backlinks. Our team's the smallest. Our budget's the smallest. Everything's the smallest. Yet we're outranking all these bigger players. And I'm gonna explain why in a second. Okay, so how am I able to, you know, achieve these amazing outcomes, you know, consistently again and again and again and again? How am I able to outrank bigger websites with more DR and more authority and a bigger brand name, you know, again and again and again, 65,000 times plus. And it's because, you know, Google doesn't work the way you think it does. So, you know, if you search how to get backlinks, there's over 16 million results on how to get backlinks. And, you know, the first thing people think about when they think about SEO is backlinks. And, you know, the conversation is very backlink focused. And it kind of makes SEO sound magical and maybe untouchable. And if you don't know how to build these magical backlinks, that can be further from the truth. So picture this. You are Google. You are currently the world's most innovative big data company. There's not a single company on the market that is more innovative than you. And you have a lot of data. You actually own 99% of the web analytics market with Google Analytics, and you own 70% of the web browser market with Chrome. And you have all this user data available to you. You know how long people are on a website. You know if they're returning. You know if they subscribe. You know if they purchase. You know if they sign up for a mailing list. You know if they visit 100 pages. You know if they spend an hour on it. You have all this data about how users engage with content after searching for a particular keyword, and you use backlinks to figure out where to put websites. So the reason that we have over 65,000 page one keywords and we have the smallest budget and the smallest team and the least amount of backlinks and the lowest domain authority, in almost all the cases, is because we focus on user engagement metrics: time on site, pages visited, return visits, sign-ups, purchases, and even a hidden metric called termination of search. And ultimately, if you think about it, these are the things, these are the heuristics, these are the signals that truly tell you whether one piece of content is better and more relevant than another piece of content. And you know what our 65,000 page one keywords has shown us is that Google stack ranks pages based off of user engagement metrics and a handful of other important things that I'll get to later. Again, this is really great because this means SEO is accessible. It's really focused on creating the highest quality, most relevant content. Okay, so now that you guys know how Google works, and Google basically wants to show people the highest quality, most relevant content for any given search query, the next thing that you need to know is which websites are more successful than other, which projects are more successful than other projects. And across the dozen or so projects that I've worked on in the last year, what I've seen is that the thing that all projects that are very, very successful have in common is a high rate of publishing velocity. That's measured in 20, 40, 100 pages of content per month. So those graphs that you saw at the beginning, the first one, 400 pages in 10 months is a typo. The one on the top right, 1,000 pages of user-generated content. Now, I've had projects that are successful projects that don't look like this. And just like the number one thing in common between all these projects is publishing velocity, the thing in common between all these other projects that aren't as successful is also publishing velocity. The projects where you don't publish a lot don't see really amazing graphs like this. It's not DR. There's this bottom left corner, DR9. You'll see more about that later. DR9, top right, like 32. So it's not DR. And in the projects that were successful but not nearly as successful, we have DR60s in there. But they published 17 pages of content over the course of a year. And they just weren't very, they just didn't tackle enough opportunity. So you want to create the highest quality, most relevant content for any given search, and you want to do that at scale, as fast as you possibly can. And you're going to find out why in just a second. So, what this does is when you're publishing hundreds or dozens or hundreds of pages of content, over a couple months, what's happening is that you're saturating your funnel and you're publishing content everywhere your target audience is searching, whether it's at the top, middle, or bottom. And you're spending a majority of your budget on content that can be used in other sales and marketing channels. Your email list, etc. When you're going broad, if you also look at those graphs, it was consistent week over week growth. And that's really fun. It gives you a lot of confidence early in the campaign that it's going to drive the outcome that you're looking for later in the campaign. And if any given page doesn't rank, it doesn't prevent the campaign success. I'm a doctor, not a god. Some of the pages won't rank, but if you publish enough of the pages will rank. The campaign will be successful every single time. Every single time. It hasn't not worked. Okay, so this is where most campaigns fail. If you've hired an SEO vendor or you've tried to do SEO and you failed, I bet you went too deep. You went too deep. Now, what going deep is what almost everybody does. It's like what 95% of people do. And what going deep means is that you create a few bottom of the funnel landing pages. You spend a majority of the budget on backlinks. There's no business impact until one of these bottom of the funnel landing pages ranks. And before it gets there, you're not even sure if you're ever going to get there. It's just not clear, right? You're just waiting multiple months with no business impact. You're just throwing money at these backlinks, and you're essentially praying that it works. And if one of these pages doesn't rank, the whole campaign is unsuccessful. And you're just setting yourself up for failure when you go deep. It's just very, very hard to pull off. Like you're just building your campaign on like it doesn't make financial sense. It just doesn't make sense, you know. There's benefits to going broad. Besides getting a lot of at-bats, there's benefits to going broad, and we'll cover that later. Okay, so I want to use an example that everybody, well, a lot of people in this, this watching should know. FreshBooks. FreshBooks is absolutely crushing it. They make invoicing easy for small businesses. They have like 500,000 customers. They're like one of like Canada's like top tech companies, and they're absolutely crushing search with 650,000 organic visitors per month. Now, there's a lot to say about FreshBooks, but I want to highlight how many pages of content they have published. Now, on the right-hand screen, you'll see it says top pages, and there's a big arrow that's pointing to 2,958. FreshBooks has 2,958 pages of content. That's a lot of content. So let's go a little bit deeper. FreshBooks has 330 pages dedicated towards invoicing. 330 pages. Now, on the left-hand side, the left column, you'll see what percent of traffic each page generates. So the first page generates 28%. The second page generates 5%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In the middle, you'll see the page URL, and I've kind of underlined the main keyword. And then in the right-hand side, you'll see the top keyword. And invoice template, top keyword invoice template. Blank invoice template, number 5. Invoice template blank. So the reason that FreshBooks published 330 pages about invoicing is they can't rank for all of the ways that people search for invoicing with one page. They can't, because Google's going to show more relevant results for that query, right? If you're searching invoice template word and you have a page about invoice templates, you might be competing against 1,000 pages that are specifically about invoice template word. That's way more specific. The intent is it's way more specific. You're going to get beat. And so that's why FreshBooks created 330 pages, because they wanted to rank for all of the ways that people search. Now, if they stopped at the first page, they'd be missing out on 80% of the business impact that this content is driving. 80%. That's huge. I guarantee you that 80% is a massive ROI on the cost of this one time for content. Now, the other reason they probably published 330 pages is because they can now drive 329 internal links to the main invoice template page. Now, internal links are like a secret weapon in SEO. The more internal links you can drive at a page, the easier it will be to rank, because Google believes it's more relevant to your brand. The more relevant to your brand it is, the easier it will be to rank. I consistently use internal links. I'll drive dozens of internal links to pages I want to rank, and it really, really works really well. And it's accessible again because you can control it. Okay, so it's not just FreshBooks and it's not just B2B SaaS. Most industries are dominated by brands that go broad and publish a lot of content. What we're looking at is a list of the top sites in the puppy niche. The left-hand column is the domain. You know, the second column, estimated traffic, that's from Ahrefs. The GR is from Ahrefs. The number of pages is from Ahrefs. And the traffic per page is an efficiency score. And what it measures is, you know, what's the, you know, how much traffic does each page of content generate? And you'll see the number one player in the space, Dogtime, generates about 578 visitors per month per page. Now, highlighted below is Doggypedia. Doggypedia was a website that I built. You saw the graph above. It was Google Analytics. And I sold it to a hyper growth DTC pet brand for $30,000. And its efficiency score is just as good as Dogtime's, with a DR that's like 1/7 or whatever of the size. In fact, you know, the efficiency score is better than a lot of these top players, despite not having the domain authority that you would typically associate with like a top player in the space. The other thing that this graph shows is how much content you need to be number one, or even top 5 or top 10. You know, the website with the least amount of content on its list has 861 pages. And they also only have 1/10 or 1/8 of the number one place. You know, everyone in the top 5 has at least 1,500 pages. And the top 2 have, you know, 4,000 average. That's huge. And regardless of what industry you check, you know, the major players in the space will have a lot of content. I guarantee you, 100% guarantee it. Okay, so FreshBooks has some things that you guys don't have, probably. It has 3,000 pages of content and the awesome content infrastructure that comes along with that. It has incredible domain authority. I think it's like a 78, but I could have got that wrong. And it has thousands of backlinks. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. What you have today is probably good enough. Whatever you have today. If you have a couple hundred customers, you know, actually, let me show you. Anyleads.com. Some of you guys might be familiar with them. They help you do cool email stuff. With 70 pages of content, we grew their project from 0 to 46,000 visitors per month. And this most recent month, it generated 101 visitors. It's actually 104. The screenshot's a little old. There's nothing special about Anyleads, you know. It's a cool product. They have a few hundred customers. They don't really have any other marketing efforts. And they have a few dozen natural backlinks. And, you know, they're crushing it. You know, what crushing organic search is accessible. I'm telling you guys, it's accessible. So let's learn how they did it. But before we do that, I want to show you the benefits of going broad versus going deep. Anyleads' #1 converting page generated about 70% of the credit card required free trials last month. 70%, that's huge. That's super, super, super awesome. Bottom of the funnel landing page generating most of the value. Makes sense. There's the highest intent. It's exactly what people are searching for. Anyleads is a solution. But the problem is that it took 9 months to begin ranking. It didn't start ranking until March. We started the campaign in July or something the year before. You know, it took forever to start ranking. So you you know, by going broad, and then we were accumulating wins, you know, since month like 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, you know. And it wasn't you know, it wasn't stressful. We every week, every month, we saw it going up and to the right. There's no question that what we were doing wasn't working. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how to implement this playbook and how you can do it step by step. So it's pretty easy. The first is keyword research. This is foundational. If you mess this up and you spend a lot of money on content, well, you know, going back to the long feedback cycle, you know, it's not gonna turn out great. 1 second, let me plug in my monitor. My laptop. Okay, so we're gonna do our keyword research, and then we're gonna forecast, is this campaign feasible? Should we even go ahead and spend money on it? And if we do spend money on it, how much money can we expect to make over the course of the campaign? What's the opportunity? How does SEO compare with other acquisition channels that I could invest in or I am investing in? If you decide to go ahead, you need to recruit great writers. You need to build templates to turn any writer into an SEO content writer, and then you need to scale up, you know, content publishing. As fast as possible as you can. We're at 500 pages a month of content today. And there is a tiny bit of technical BS. I was just being hyperbolic earlier. There's a little bit, but it's easy. You already have the skill to do it. Okay, so keyword research. So keyword research is knowing your buyer persona. One, you know, what are all of the searches that someone can make that indicates that they're your target audience? So going back to the FreshBooks example, someone who's typing in, you know, invoices for plumbers or invoice templates for locksmith is FreshBooks target audience. With any leads, you know, it's someone searching for like LinkedIn email finder, or, you know, like someone who wants to grow their business on LinkedIn or email. So then you're going to use whatever keyword research tool you want, Ahrefs, SEMrush, even Uber suggests, or whatever, you know, random keyword research tool you guys want. It's all good. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to look for all of the ways that people are searching across the funnel. All of the ways, you know, from top to bottom. Because when you're planning your content calendar, you really want to understand, you know, the total surface area that you can target, because that's going to allow you to make decisions like, you know, should we prioritize low-hanging fruit, or, you know, even, you know, you can kind of balance like intent versus competition versus volume, and you just make a lot better decisions. And then you're going to group the keywords into unique pages with a main keyword and a variation. So before we move on, let's kind of walk through what this looks like. So when we're using something like Ahrefs, and we're let's say any leads, and we want to target people that want to grow their business with LinkedIn, you know, we're going to start off going super broad. I want to understand all of the ways that people are searching for, you know, LinkedIn, and there's 2 million variations in the ways that people are searching. So that's way too many for us. Too broad. We want to get more specific. We want to target people that really express intent on growing their business with LinkedIn. So how do we do that? What are they searching for? Well, they're probably searching for things like example, or examples, or tactic, or tactics, or strategy, or strategies, or tool, or tools, or software, and you want to hit all of the variations that people might use. You know, you can't guess, and you have to get really specific. So you have to do tools, you know, strategies, things like that. Growth, marketing, ads, advertising, company, best practices. Let's see, you know, you can just keep on going. I might go for, you know, 5 minutes. I'm just going. So let's go ahead, but this is good enough for now. So let's search. Okay, great. So there's 77,000 ways that people are using these growth words along with the word LinkedIn. And this is great because people that are looking to grow their business on LinkedIn are the people that are in any leads' target audience. And we want to get in front of them, you know, across the funnel. Okay, so here's the tricky part. There's 77,000 ways that people are searching for these LinkedIn growth keywords. How many pages of content do we need to build? How much is this going to cost? How many writers do I need to hire? How much is it per article? How much is the total cost? Well, here's the tricky part about SEO. Here's what makes it hard. You know, keyword research is broken. What you have to do is you have to go through these 77,000 keywords and you have to make gut level decisions. Does LinkedIn summary examples belong with best LinkedIn profiles? Is that the same article? Is that the same article as LinkedIn summary examples or LinkedIn profile examples? Are these two the same article? LinkedIn summary examples and LinkedIn profile examples. You know, is one of those the main keyword, another one the variation? Should I write about both those things on one page? And you have to go through and you have to make a bunch of these gut level decisions. Now, there's keyword research guides that can give you, you know, some heuristics and some patterns, but essentially you're making gut level decisions again and again and again and again and again. It creates room for error. Now, if you haven't done keyword research before and you haven't got your reps in, you know, don't bet a bunch of money on content if you're not sure you're gonna do the keyword research right, because it'll really minimize the impact that you guys can create. Okay, so here's what we do. We use a tool called Cluster AI, and what Cluster AI does is it automatically groups pages, takes this list of keywords and groups them into unique pages. And here's what it looks like. So in the left-hand column, we have the main keyword. It's LinkedIn summary examples. In the middle, we have the group searches. Now, this is the volume of the main keyword plus all of the variations of the main keyword. Now, these variations are what we're going to use in our content, our H2s, our metas, our in content. We're not just going to stuff the main keyword. We're going to use all these variations. Now, you know, the next one is LinkedIn headline examples, 19,000 searches, and here's all the variations that we're going to use in the content. And so now what happened is first of all, we just did days, weeks of keyword research in about 2 minutes. All we did was export, you know, the top 2,000 keywords from Ahrefs. We put them into Cluster AI, and Cluster AI grouped them. And the way that Cluster AI works is it uses data from Google to make keyword decisions. And so it removes the skill level required to provide, you know, perfect key level, you know, keyword research. And the way that it makes decisions is it groups every keyword together and it checks how many results they have in common. So I'll give you a great example. Going back to how important keyword research is, let's look at 2 keywords, LinkedIn summary examples and LinkedIn headline examples. Now, as a content writer for B2B SaaS that, you know, helps people grow their business on LinkedIn, I think this might be the same article. And I would write an Uber article about the best LinkedIn profiles that has a section on the best LinkedIn headline examples, the best LinkedIn summary examples. And if I did that, it wouldn't rank at all. And the reason is because when you Google both of these keywords, you're going to see that the pages that rank are optimized for one or the other. Best LinkedIn profile summaries, 7 creative LinkedIn summary examples, how to write a LinkedIn summary expertise, 7 LinkedIn summary examples. And when we go back and we look at LinkedIn headline examples, you're going to see that it's optimized for LinkedIn headline examples. And there's not a single result that ranks on the first page for both keywords with one page. If you want to rank for both keywords, you need to create 2 pages. And that's the danger of doing keyword research manually, is that these keywords that look like they're variations of one another are actually not variations of one another. And if you try and optimize, and if you try to create an article about best LinkedIn headline examples and best LinkedIn summary examples and optimize for both, you wouldn't rank for either. Because there's not a single page that is ranking for either of these keywords that optimize for both and ranks. That's how you know. Check the first pages. Check the first page. Okay. So, okay, so we grouped the keywords. Now let's talk about forecasting the ROI. Let's go back here and let's say that we want to do the top 20 articles in LinkedIn. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to, usually there's numbers here, but I stripped them. And we're going to find out how much search volume that represents. So in this case, the top 20 or so LinkedIn articles represent 90,000 searches per month. But we're not there yet. So let's talk about the total cost first. 20 articles times our cost per article is how much it's going to cost. We'll get to how much it's going to cost in a second. The monthly budget is how many pages per month you want to publish. If you find 100 or 300 opportunities, do you want to publish those opportunities in 1 year or 2 years or 6 months? How fast do you want to go? Because you can't rank for a keyword or an opportunity until you have a page about that keyword published. And so the biggest bottlenecks are how long content sits in your content calendar, and then once you publish it, how long it takes to actually rank. Okay, pro tip, hire enough writers for each writer, only submit 1 per week. That way when they flake, they don't impact your deadlines. If you rely on one writer too much, to the tune of like 2 or 3 or 4 articles per week, it's going to let you down. You're going to miss your publishing deadlines. One writer, 1 article per week. Okay, ROI. So 90,000 searches in these top 20 articles. Let's go to the ROI calculator here. Okay, so this can help you calculate, various levels of success across your campaign. So, the total monthly search volume is for these 20 pages is, let's say, 90,000. Now, the CTR is the percentage of searches that lead to a click to the website. So, position 5 generally gets about 10% CTR, a 10% click-through rate. So what that's saying is that if I can attain a blended ranking of position 5 across all the keywords, I should capture around 10% of this 90,000. Now, the conversion, 2%, 1%, with any leads is case. Well, I won't use the exact numbers. Let's say it's 1%. Let's say your LTV is $500. So, potentially this content series of 20 articles is targeting 90,000 searches a month. We can expect, if we can get position 5 across most of the keywords, we'll get about 9,000 visitors. We'll convert about 90. They're worth 500 each, and we'll make 45,000 a month in revenue. Now we can start playing with the numbers. What if the campaign really sucks? What if we only get 5%? What if, we only convert 0.005? Now we can see that in a bad case where our position is more like position 8 or 7, we're only able to capture 4,500, and of the 4,500, we're only able to convert 5 out of 1,000, so we only get 22 conversions a month, and we only make 11,000. But based off of how much I think it's going to cost to publish content, this campaign, even in the worst case scenario, is like a good bet. It's a good bet. Okay, so let's talk about hiring awesome writers, like the best writers. So, in the US, content writers range from about 48,000 in Austin to about 63,000 in San Francisco. That's on average. Seniors definitely make more. And this comes out to about 18 to 26 cents per word, or about $450 to $650 per page of content. Now, this rate is before benefits and PTO and taxes and costs for editing and optimizations and featured images and all the stuff that goes into actually publishing content. And the highest quality, most affordable writers do not live in trendy US cities. Let's talk about where they live. So the best, most affordable writers on the internet are found in the low cost of living countries. They're expats and digital nomads, or they're locals with native levels of English. These guys are just as good. It might take a little bit more searching and filtering, but if you have good systems that can identify good quality candidates, it's totally worth it. I can't tell you, how great these guys are. So here's a list of 60 Facebook groups you guys can recruit from. What I would pay is around $150 to $250 per article. And again, you're looking for one article per week per writer. Okay, so when you recruit from Facebook groups, it's going to turn into a cluster because a million people are going to show up in your DMs, you're going to comment on the posts, and it's going to be very hard to actually, evaluate people. No one's going to send you everything you want in their first message. You're going to ask questions. They're going to send you pieces. They're going to send you, and it's just hard to track. It's impossible, actually. You're going to get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of requests if you post in these groups. And so what you need to do is organize it in Airtable or Google Forms. You need to ask a series of questions that allows you to quickly evaluate each person for their fit. So this is our application that we use when we recruit external writers. Name, their role, they have to click this, the candidate status, articles per month that they can write for us, their per word rate, the verticals that they have a background in, the portfolio examples, about themselves, their email, their country, their online profile, whether they're a freelancer, if they're in-house, this is just to get into our content system, because we also use Airtable to manage your content, preferred payment method, and their payment email. And now, when we're reviewing these hundreds of applications, it's quite easy to assess everybody a lot quicker. And actually, let me, maybe I should save that for a later presentation, but we've screened over 1,000 candidates in the last 12 months and hired about 30 of them. And they're really awesome. Okay, so after you hire your writers, you need to turn them into an SEO content writer. And regardless of what they say, whether they say they know SEO, remember, they've never achieved the outcome that you're looking to achieve. They don't mean they have consistent processes to rank stuff. They mean they've read some stuff. Don't listen to them. Set them up for success using this playbook. So what any writer needs to get started is information about the project, who the audience is, who the website is, who the project, what they're good at, their position in the market, how they compare the competition, how customers perceive them, the pain points their audience is going through. All of these things are necessary for the writer to create awesome content. Then you need some technical guidelines. These are things that just generally help you rank well in search. We'll go through those. And it goes back to the quality aspect. Unique content series templates. So this is when you have a batch of similar articles. For example, a bunch of LinkedIn growth articles. This is where you can kind of batch information together, like required reading and similar articles that are really great and things of that nature. And then you need to do post-submission optimization. So you're going to ask the writers to do a certain thing. If they don't do it, you need to go in there and you need to do it. So all that needs to live in one document. I am not dealing with version 4B final 7.2.20 the final Word docs. It's not scalable. You need to manage it in Google Docs. I tried Google's solution and it didn't work. I tried Microsoft's solution. Tried to use OneDrive. Didn't work. Here, 1 second. Okay. Okay. So here's the doc. So the technical guidelines. Let's go through those. Let's see if they still live here. All right, it still lives here. Cool. Should probably take that down. Okay, here's the technical requirements. Here's what you guys care about. So I want 2,500 words. I want 3 lists. I want 3 sets of bullets. I want 2 tables. And I want 5+ internal links. But honestly, sometimes it's more like 20. The reason I do this is because when it drives user engagement. Just better formatted content, longer content keeps people on the page longer. Going back to Brian Dean's 200 ranking factors, the reason you wrote 200 ranking factors is because that thing takes forever to read. You can be on that thing for hours reading about ranking factors. User engagement is so good, you're never going to search for ranking factors again after reading that article. You're so satisfied. And that's what these requirements help drive on a systems level. It's a really good way to communicate. It makes the data look good. It also helps you rank faster. So let me give you an example. You're Google. Actually, you're you. And I show you 2 pieces of content. And one content is 1,000 words in one giant paragraph. And another piece of content is 2,500 words. It has a bunch of lists. It has a bunch of bullets. It has a bunch of tables, a bunch of internal links, a bunch of external links. And both pages of content are in a language you can't read. It's in Klingon or something. Which one would you say is higher quality? Even if you can't read it, you're going to say the one with all the lists and tables of contents and stuff. And so that's how kind of Google, Google's built this heuristic over trillions of searches. Things that have this generally tend to have better user engagement metrics. So when Google calls your site, it notices you have it, you end up ranking quicker, you get tested on the first page quicker. And if you do truly have competitive user engagement metrics, you will stay on the first page. But if you don't, you'll bounce off. And you'll have to edit the content to try again. Okay, so that's the technical guidelines. The about the client needs to include all the things that I discussed earlier, like the audience, the positioning, who the CEO is, what the features do, just everything about the writers need to know to really crush it. So I'm not sure if this is loading. Okay, so then you need to use the variations. those variations that you got from Cluster AI here need to be communicated to the writer. They need to go in the doc. And you need instructions that say use the variations that you can buy. Okay, so then you can call it internal links to bottom of the funnel landing pages if you want. And there's some more resources on why they're so important. And then we have a table that the writers need to submit. You know, going back to the guidelines, we noticed a lot of writers weren't following them, so we created this table. They need to submit that certifies, yes, I completed the content distribution technical guidelines. And then the writer writes in here. You just write directly into the doc, and then from here, you know, it goes live. And you know, that's pretty much, you know, how we turn any writer into an SEO content writer, and that's like, you know, this is a high-level overview of how everything works. You know, and it works really well. When you look at our organization, you know, there's no one that came in with an SEO background. There's no one more sophisticated than me, and you know, like I was saying, I don't understand half the stuff other SEOs talk about when they're talking about like schema and, you know, NLP and, you know, golden ratios and all this like technical mumbo jumbo. No, none of it's necessary. You just need to do this. So my team of content writers who don't know SEO, my team of editors who don't know SEO, follow this playbook, and the content just naturally ranks again and again and again consistently. Okay, post-submission optimizations. This is basically just making sure that the writers actually use the variations in the HTML content. If they didn't, you know, they should have. Fix that. You're welcome. Kindly. Writers are your most valuable asset. Okay, so last thing almost, I think, is technical SEO. There's a little bit of stuff. First off, if you built programmatically, you know, thousands of pages, delete them. This is the most common trick in the book. Any developer, any B2B developer who's building a SaaS has thought about, man, what if I just programmatically built thousands of pages? And all of them who try fail. It doesn't work. It works in special circumstances. You do it correctly. The way that you're doing it has no nuance. Google knows about it. It's been tried a million times. You can't just take over the search results by programmatically building thousands of pages. Delete it. Delete it, delete it, delete it. Okay. If you can, you know, link your 3 most recent blog posts on your homepage and root blog folder from the homepage. So that means linking to the, you know, the blog page. The reason is the closer, you know, pages are to your homepage, the easier they are to rank. The farther away they are, the harder they are to rank. So reduce the number of clicks. Focus on page speed. You know, this is super important. It doesn't matter if your audience is primarily desktop, you have the mobile first indexing. You need to craft pages. If you don't, it will impact. Don't have aggressive pop-ups. They will drop your rankings. You know, embed your pop-ups or your opt-ins into the content. These breadcrumbs, table of contents plugins, if you don't know what these are, Google them. I'm not going to cover it. If you have a lot of legacy visitors, legacy content that doesn't get visitors, clean it up. Click this link to learn why in this intro video or blog post. And then de-index low-value pages, tags, categories, authors, archives. Essentially, you know, you want to have a good ratio of high-value pages where users get value to low-value pages where users generally don't. And the more low-value pages you have, the less high-value pages you have, the less everything ranks. So de-index the stuff that doesn't add value to the user. Remove blog and categories from the URL. And then you can ignore everything else. Like, you know, as long as the page is fast and the site structure is good, and do all this stuff, like, that's literally it. Like, there's no, that's it. Okay, so, you know, this presentation has been pretty long. We covered a lot, but I'm really hoping that it helped you guys understand how accessible crushing Google is in your niche. Now, if you're interested in learning more, check out me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. You can check out more free guides. You can also join my Facebook group. Sign up for my email list. I'm dropping lots of knowledge bombs all over the place, doing some pretty cool stuff. So thanks for listening. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Ask a question in the group, and let's crush, guys.